let's look at some odds because I want to look at a few different things. Let's just start with outrights. Looking here on DraftKings Sportsbook, DJ's a 2-1 favorite. Wouldn't mess with that, obviously. But let's talk about your longest guys. And I wrote up the DB's Big Balls betting card is on tourjunkies.com. You can check that out, read it. I might make some adjustments to it come Thursday if you want to check that out. There's already been a significant amount of line movement as well. But just looking at some of the names in here that could the longest name, the longest shot that could actually have a chance of winning if you want to sprinkle a little unit on. Okay. And I think the longest I'm willing to go is Harris English, who right now DraftKings has at 70-1, which is way longer than what I even wrote him up as. And I need to go change his odds. He starts off at 4 under. He's got a pretty impressive group of players that are 4 under or better that he would have to beat. But I mean, when you look at how Harris English has played lately, he's probably through this restart been a top 5 player on the PGA Tour since the restart. I mean, DJ maybe played better. Berger's played better. Webb's played probably equal the same. I mean, he's been more consistent than Morikawa. He hasn't won, but he's been as consistent. He checks every box. He's a Georgia boy. He's played East Lake many times. He hasn't played here at the Tour Championship since 2015, but I'm sure he's very familiar with the golf course. And this seems like a course that fits his style. And 70-1 is, to me, it's a long shot, and his chances of doing this are very, very slim. So that's what I say. Like, if you wanted to throw, a $20 bet on him, that would be as long as I would be willing to go is Harris English. You agree? You got anybody longer?
I don't have anybody longer than that. I agree. I think he's about as far down as I would go.
In that same 4 under range, if you look at other players that are starting there with him, English isn't getting a lot of respect. I mean, you got Hideki, who's also starting off at 4 under, who's half the odds that Harris English is. So same starting position, Hideki at 35-1 currently. Now, Hideki's got a great record here. Great record at East Lake. I think 3 top 10s in the last 4 years or something. A couple top 5s in there along with that. Almost won. I almost had a massive victory lap on social media with Hideki if he could have pulled it out and won last week. But he's half the odds. Daniel Berger right there with him at 4 under as well. And he's 30-1. And Berger's seems like he has more win equity than Harris English, but they're all in the same starting position. And English is twice the number. But I also am interested in Berger and Matsuyama. Those 4 under guys, probably about as, that's as low as I'm willing to go. I thought about Xander earlier in the week, but I think I'm a little further off of Xander than I was when the week started. So I think I would sit at the 4 under guys or maybe jump up to, a Colin Morikawa at 23-1 right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. Well, I'm definitely with you on Xander and Berger. Those are 2 guys that I think I would put some money down on at 30 and 30-1 for Berger and 35-1 for Hideki. I did look at Xander too and thought about that. As much as I don't know, as much as I just want to try to avoid him, as good a history as Rory has here, and as bad as he's played lately, but he did show a little bit on a very difficult course last week, which he's going to get again this week. At 25-1, he's 7 shots back. I mean, I could see if Rory gets really hot and he loves this course, I could see that, him coming back. I mean, I could go Rory 25-1. That would probably be about as short as I would go.
Yeah, and I mean, even thinking back to what I just said in terms of DFS, and I talked about a couple of low-owned big names projected under 15% when half the field's projected at 20% or more, is Bryson and Rory. And you got Bryson starting at 4 under, Rory starting at 3 under. Both are 25-1 on the sports book, but both essentially the same odds as Colin Morikawa. He's 23-1. Colin Morikawa starting a shot better than Bryson, 2 shots better than Rory. Much more popular in terms of DFS, at least for now. Well, not much, 19% projected, so not super high. So definitely for, if you're comparing the odds and you're thinking through, the odds makers believe that Bryson and Rory have the ability to come from way behind and do this. I mean, Rory came from behind last year and beat Justin Thomas. He wasn't as far back as he is right now. And he was definitely playing better, but it's still there. So I think those numbers are also telling.
Yeah, I agree there.
I wouldn't get any shorter. I mean, Webb at 10-1 is interesting, but 10-1 is just not something I do. So in terms of outrights, that's it for me. And then the top 10 and top 20 markets are kind of crazy because you only got 30 players in the field, right?
I don't look at it. I didn't even really look at those, to be honest. I mean,
yeah. I mean, a Mackenzie Hughes, like 10-1 for a top 10 is interesting, but a top 20, you definitely could go ahead and hammer maybe a favorite if you wanted, but the numbers are still kind of wild. First round leader bets are out there, and I think there are some bigger numbers for sure that I think I'll probably add. I'll probably add to the betting card. You can actually bet on DK Sportsbook the first round leader either with the starting strokes or without the starting strokes, and get different numbers there. So that could be interesting come Thursday night, checking out the weather in Atlanta. It's going to be a pretty short turnaround though, because you got 30 players in the field, so they're all going to tee off within an hour and a half of each other, if that.
Well,
so.
And here's the thing: you look at like a first round leader. I mean, obviously DJ's a minus number at -120, but on a course like this, you kind of saw a little bit of it last week. Now, this course is not as hard and is not going to play as difficult as Olympia Fields did. Right. But you can have some big numbers thrown up by some of these guys. We see it at Eastlake. I mean, if you're spraying it all over the place and not hitting fairways, even some of these guys that are in good form right now, they may throw up a 75, and be 5 over for the round. And then all of a sudden, somebody like a Hideki or whoever's like 5 or 6 shots back flips it and is in the lead. I mean, it could happen. I mean, it's not out of the realm. These guys are, they're coming back from these numbers on Sundays, coming back sometimes from 4 or 5 shots back, much less 4 rounds to do it. So, I mean, I guess my point behind that is not just with betting, but betting out or first round leaders, but with outrights as well. I try not to get too caught up in the fact that DJ's at 10, Rahm's at 8. I do think these guys behind them can come back and catch up to them. Now, who do I think is going to win the Tour Championship and maybe win this tournament? I think it's probably going to be DJ Rahm. But it doesn't mean that when I'm putting my money down that I don't think there's a chance that I can gamble, which is what we're doing on some of these guys a little bit further back. So,
well, that's a good point. There is one more prop that I have, and then I'll let you kind of wrap it up if you have any other thoughts. Or when you talk matchups, but there's a prop I want to mention, and it there was something that happened involving this last year. Before I do, I want to remind everybody, you only got a couple more weeks to go get some fresh draws from our friends at Chill Boys, because the promo code for chillboys.com, Tour Junkies, the promo code Tour Junkies gets you 15% off your entire order if you want some fresh draws and some fresh boxers, some fresh briefs. Treat yourself, treat your Grundle area. And only for a couple more weeks, you're going to have this opportunity unless something crazy happens. But our friends at Chill Boys have been hooking a lot of listeners up. They've hooked us up. I'm wearing them right now. Pat got mad at me for exposing myself a few weeks ago on the podcast, so I won't do that. But the anti-chafing zone built into the briefs and boxers is quite amazing. They have a lovely, soft, super soft cotton blend, as well as a incredibly soft bamboo kind of blend thing, which is amazing. Based in Minnesota. Great U.S. company, good people. We've talked to the founders, great guys. They love golf, and they made Chill Boys kind of with golfers in mind, and that's why they reached out to us. hey, you got golfers that listen to the show. Guess what golfers do on the golf course? Well, they're ball sweat, and they need some support, and they need no chafage, and they need cooling, and that's where Chill Boys comes in. So go to chillboys.com and check out the full line of the cool, soft boxers and briefs, and use code Tour Junkies to get that 15% off your first order. So again, go to chillboys.com, promo code Tour Junkies, save 15%. Thank us later, and thank the Chill Boys. I was at Eastlake last year. This will be the first year that I have not been at Eastlake in probably 5 years. And I was there on the day that Chez Reavie made a hole-in-one. It was the first ever hole-in-one in Tour Championship history last year on Friday on the 9th hole. There is a hole-in-one prop on DraftKings. Will there be a hole-in-one in the tournament? Yes, at 6-1. No, at a massive number. Chesticle did it last year. Yes, it was the first time in history, but there ain't much else to really bet on. You bet on a handful of outrights, maybe grab some matchups. You're gonna save some money in DFS. But if you throw a little something on the old hole in one, you root for that. You got the best players in the world, a lot of hot players on this golf course. Taking advantage of the par threes, maybe another Chesticle. If Chesticle can do it, anybody in this field can do it. I mean, hell, Mark Leishman could do it, right now.
Do you get crazy, though, and go with 2 or more holes in one
at 40
to 1?
No, I don't. I think that's insane. I mean,
on a course like this, yeah.
Do we even see that? How many times do you think we see that in a year? Maybe one? Do we see 2 hole-in-ones in a tournament?
I think it maybe be more than once, but...
Yeah.
But on a course like this with 30 people, that 40 to 1's, I don't know. But I don't mind the 6-1 number.
Yeah.
So matchups. I think there's some good ones. I think there's some good ones that I like here. I'll start off with one that, arguably the hottest play in the world, Daniel Berger over Bryson DeChambeau. Daniel Berger's at -110. I think that's a pretty good number for him. I feel like he's just going to beat him straight. I think this is a way better course for Berger than it is for Bryson. I think Bryson's going to probably end up being too aggressive off the tee. He's going to find himself in the rough a lot. He's going to get frustrated on him. Yeah. So I like Berger at -110 over Bryson. Looking at a plus number, I like Scotty Scheffler at +100 over Tony Finau. Now, Finau's obviously been playing good, but so is Scheffler, and I'm getting a positive number on him. I think he can have a good debut in this event. Finau is again, he is playing well, but I like that bet for Scotty. I think he's going to be pumped up to be playing in this event. He's a scorer. I'm a big fan of his, so I like some Scheffler at +100 over Finau. Another one I like, we mentioned Lonto Griffin.
Yes, this is my favorite.
I like
plus
it
number
+120 over
Love
Neiman. I know. Yeah, I know we saw Neiman have a great week last week, but that was sort of, I thought, a little bit of an anomaly. I don't think that he hasn't been playing fantastic lately.
Well, that's what he does. That's the rub with Neiman, and I say this all the time.
Yeah.
Neiman is very up and down. He's 20. What is he? 22? Which is fine. He's super talented. But if you look at his PGA Tour career, albeit short, it is very up and down. I mean, he could have a top 5 week here and then screw it up the next week. So, with the hype of Neiman last week that we saw, I figured you were going to go to that bet because you already mentioned Lonto in the outright market, but that is my favorite plus number matchup is Lonto +120.
Yeah.
Both first timers here, so it's not like Neiman has any edge over him in terms of experience. Yeah.
The last one I'll go with is there's 2, but you may mention it. If you don't, I'll throw it out there. But I like Kiz at +110 over Billy Horschel, and I'm a big fan of Horschel too. I think he's been playing well. Kiz we've seen do terrible in this event, but he's also had some pretty good finishes the last couple of years. He was not T9 last year, T3 in 2017, missed it in 2018, but. I think this is a good course for Kiz. Another Georgia boy that's used to playing courses like this, Bermuda greens, all that kind of stuff, hits fairways. He's not necessarily that long. But a good putter, a good ball striker. So I like Kiz in this matchup. I think it's a close one for me, because I really like what I've seen out of Horschel lately. But I like that plus number for Kiz there. So
Pat, did you happen to read the Big Balls betting card already?
I actually did not read it. I apologize.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the Lonto matchup and the Kiz matchup, 2 matchups that I wrote up there and I've already bet on myself. And I took the same sides you're taking. I like the Kisner plus number over Billy Ho. Obviously, Billy Ho's won here before, but I do think Kisner's heating up, and Horschel's. It feels like Horschel's trying to hang on. Like he was pretty hot in the restart, but it feels like I don't know. It feels like he's losing a little bit of control, and he's just trying to he's white knuckling it at the moment in terms of his game. But so I like that number, and I know Kiz loves Eastlake. So, I think, let me see here, other matchups I like. I like the Mackenzie Hughes favorite over Cam Champ, which I never thought I'd say. That sounds just really. I need a drink after that. That kind of left a weird taste in my mouth.
Yeah, you might need to.
I
don't mind that though. Hughes has been surprisingly
solid.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, minus 125 over Cam Champ at plus 100. And then honestly, man, I mean, DJ and Rahm. Now, DJ's getting a 2-shot lead on him, but Rahm's at plus 100. I just think those are big names, and you're giving, it's tough to come back and get DJ on a head start, but I mean, Rahm had an incredible weekend at the Northern Trust. And by the way, that freaking playoff, the 72nd hole for DJ and the playoff was absolutely electric. Wish there were fans there. Those putts by both of those guys were absolutely insane to watch. It was a lot of fun.
It really was.
But Rahm at plus 100. I mean,
yeah. I mean, DJ can go out and double the first hole, and all of a sudden they're even.
Justin Thomas, if you remember last year, Justin Thomas lost it real quick. Like, he lost it on the first few holes last year. It could totally happen and things be real square real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't mind that number. And both those guys are, looking for their first Tour Championship. I mean, obviously DJ's had many more shots at it than Rahm has. But they're both fired up. Rahm is, coming off of a victory, really a lot of big victories for him. He had the Memorial, victory there, just last week, early on in the season. I mean, this feels like just Rahm's year, to kind of, if you're saying that the season is ending, which it doesn't really feel like, but it is, at the end of this week. It just feels like Rahm is one of those guys that definitely deserves it. I mean, and DJ too. I mean, DJ's been up and down, but so I think that's an interesting play, and I like the plus number for Rahm. But going back to those putts, though, just both their reactions too, like they both kind of start
DJ's reaction I've never seen before.
Yeah, he got excited for once. And they both kind of started walking because it was such a slow putt that you had that's what made those putts so great. You had so much time to watch it and just kind of be like, okay, all right, that looks pretty good. That's kind of coming online. I wonder if it's going to move back a little bit they were so slow that it was just like, Rahm was already almost 3/4 of the way to the ball before it even dropped in the hole. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, I think it was like 11 seconds between contact and ball in the hole for both putts, which is crazy.